It's time once again to enter the chat. It's a weekly conversation about the world's most important topic. It's video games. I am your co-host, Matt Silverman, and I'm here as always with the one and only, the writer, the streamer, the editor, the podcaster, the video game player, Colette Bennett.
It makes me sound like I'm so busy.
I'm just hanging out.
I was like, fuck, maybe that's why I'm tired.
I'm doing so many things all the time.
It's weird because it doesn't feel like a lot of things, but when you list it out like that, it suddenly becomes like, whoa, maybe it is.
Isn't it interesting how a lot of things feels like not enough things, but then just like doing the dishes is like, oh my God, that's too much.
Everything,
I can't do that.
Yeah, like when you're wiped out in that way, like everything's too much. It's just
everything's too much.
It's way too much. So
check out our new t-shirt in the shop, in the merch store that says everything's too much on the shirt.
Yes, I hand lettered it. It's yet another one of my hobbies. So
I know. I gotta make sure that's in the roster. How are you doing? Thanks for entering the chat this week. As always, pretty chill show today, but not a chill week for you. You have begun a new endeavor. Is that right?
Yes, I am at my second week as a senior producer at Yahoo News, which has been fun and interesting and perspective changing and different. And having a lot of fun there. I am actually a part of an audience development team, which is a venue that I've never really moved into before. So some fun new stuff is happening. But yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to my mom on the phone this morning and I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really tired right now. And she said, yeah, it's a lot. It's really a lot when like your whole world kind of like like a major component of your whole world changes. Yes. And it makes sense that even though things are positive, that the emotional energy can still be a bit of a drain. And I was like, yeah, good point, Mom. Maybe I'll go to bed early tonight.
And there's good tired and there's bad tired, right? There's like I'm exhausted from doing nothing. What did I accomplish today? And then there's that great tired feeling of like, woo.
Right. I did so much and I feel good. But yeah, I think maybe it's more like the mental tiredness. Because for me, that usually feels like, like I need a break. I need 10 hours of sleep. But But it's once again not bad. It's nice to be having new experiences. So I'm enjoying that. And I did file my first story today, so hopefully that'll be up tomorrow or Monday, and I'm looking forward to it.
And you mentioned to me off air, like there seems to be a lot of flexibility and freedom to pitch things you want to cover, and the coverage, the coverage mandate is like, anything that's interesting, whatever you got.
Pretty much, like, yeah. And that's like really great for me and means that I get to pitch really creatively, which is pretty much my favorite thing to do. So, and I don't have to do breaking news. I don't have to, write about, school shootings, which was probably one of my least favorite things I ever have done in my career. So, yeah.
Well, it's time to talk about some video games. But first, we have an email. A very important email to discuss. I didn't know that. This email is entitled subject line yard sale, but like a lot of letters, like a lot of exclamation points. This is from James. James says, I finally caught up with the podcast. This is the most amazing thing. I cannot believe this podcast is real after waiting so long since Retroforce Go. There was best podcast ever, and Retroid, I guess Retroforce Go, right? But nothing ever lasted, and now this is here with a lot of emojis with starry eyes. Thank you, James. But he goes on, I wanted to share with you some photos of me wearing the Retroforce Go shirt. But wait, years later, with Nobuo Uematsu and Arnie Roth, I was even lucky enough to sit with Uematsu's keyboard. So there's pictures of James here, which are outstanding. I mean, Uematsu is amazing, but I'm not familiar with Arnie Roth. Is that a name that rings a bell for you?
Yes. So when the the Final Fantasy tours have happened, and I believe this might be specifically associated with Distant Worlds tour, but I don't know if he's been on the other ones because I haven't attended them. Arnie Roth was or is a composer that was a major part of the tour. I've met him too because I interviewed them a long time ago myself. But
cool.
But yes, a lovely, friendly human being and a beautiful conductor.
You've met Uematsu?
I have.
That is rad.
I have a picture, a very awkward picture of me and him and one of my other coworkers on Facebook like 13 or 14 years ago.
So, James, thank you for listening. He goes on, actually, but James says, by the way, if you ever get Aaron Lindy again, please remind him of Bonker Quest from Podtoid. He must never forget. Does that ring a bell?
No, because
I'm sorry. Boner Quest. Boner
Quest. Yes, Boner Quest does ring a bell. Podtoid was one of the other Destructoid podcasts, and Aaron was on that one for a while, I believe. So I'll just have to tweet that at him and see what he says.
Let's do that. But
the reason why the email is titled Yard Sale is because that became a Retroforce Go joke too, and I think Alex, when he came on with us, he said yard sale at some point. But yeah, I don't like, you know how sometimes like jokes start and like you're not really 100% sure like how they became as funny as they are, but like you just had to be there at that time. That's kind of what yard sale was like. Yeah.
But then he was talking about actually having a real yard sale and selling off all his retro stuff. Was that Alex or was that Aaron? I don't remember.
I think that was Aaron, but yeah, lots of big yard sale memories. So, but I love that email, and I did not know we got it, so I am very, very excited. And that kind of made my entire day.
Good. More info here that is you'll have to fill me in on. Also, if you ever get Reverend Anthony on, I'm hoping for an impromptu Rev rant, and for Topher, more discussion of shmups. I miss everyone from those days. I still have some of the crew on Facebook. Stella seems to like videos of my cats. Great show. Keep up the great work.
Oh, that's so nice.
These photos are awesome. So James, we'll thank you for writing in. The email, of course, is haveenteredthechat@gmail.com. We would like to hear, if you're listening to this, we would like to hear from you. These could be memories of Retroforce. These could be what you're playing. These could be pictures of your cat, whatever. We would like to see them. But I'll message James back, thank him personally, and then maybe share these photos in the Discord because they are rad.
That'd be nice.
They are really
I'd
cool.
like that. I'd like that a lot.
Yeah, and I'll forward this to you, of course, so you can see. But yeah, we'll get permission first. But so get in touch with us. But right now, it's time to talk about a little media form that we like to call video games. What's going on? What are you playing? What's happening?
I am finally playing Returnal.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a fucking game. Have you played it?
Okay. No, because this is PS5 exclusive. Is that correct?
It is, but I just wasn't sure if maybe you might have come across it at someone's house or, I just don't want to assume.
Someone's house.
You're like, I don't go anywhere.
I don't go anywhere. B, I would, if you asked me to name every friend or family member that I would have access to their homes in my entire life, I don't think I could say, oh yeah, this person also has a PS5. Like, there's no one.
Okay, well,
there might be one cousin I could name, but
forget my polite
elsewhere.
Assumption. But
this is a PlayStation exclusive. It is not. Maybe it'll hit PC one day, as we've seen other Horizons and such, which I'm loving. I'm loving that those big Sony games are finally coming along to PC. So
right.
I'll wait. Returnal looks very interesting.
Yeah, they must have signed a deal with Sony, and I can understand why. But it was interesting because I'm like, and this is always a question I have when I'm really enjoying a game, like, who the fuck made this game? And I found out, before I get into the game itself, I found out that it was made by a developer called Housemarque, Marque, that I had never heard of. And I was like, Housemarque. And here's this like very, very, very polished game, right? And so I look up Housemarque and I find out that they are a Finland-based developer, which probably is part of the reason that I have not heard of them, and have been making games for a very long time, but that I have simply not ever played any of their titles. I some of their names sound kind of familiar: Matterfall, Resogun, Outland. Oh wait, no, I take it back. There's a game called Alienation that I played. It was a PlayStation 4 game that I played in probably 2017. It was nothing like this. So this is very, very ambitious and different in comparison. So
I've heard of Resogun. That sounds familiar, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, totally. So, for anybody that by any chance, has not seen it, it's a trailer featuring a female space explorer. Her name is Celine, and she has heterochromia, which is when the two eyes are two different colors, like David Bowie's. Which, by the way, I found out that can happen due to trauma. Didn't know that.
Really?
But that's most definitely a plot point.
Physical trauma? What are we, medically speaking? What are we talking?
Medical. Yeah, some form of medical trauma. Was my understanding. I'm assuming at some point we might see when it happened to her, but I don't know if that's coming yet because I haven't gotten far enough. Super like organic, interesting, like alien world. She crashes a ship and pretty quickly finds out that when she dies, she's repeating. Hence Returnal, right?
Okay. I didn't realize there was a lore, like a story reason why it becomes a roguelike or a roguelite.
They call it a roguelite, which I think is extremely interesting because this is, to me, this is a roguelike in every definition of the word, because as you'll quickly find out, this game is brutal. Like, it is gorgeous. It is so polished. Like, I got so quickly absorbed into the concepts because, I thought, well, clearly I found that I like the roguelite thing because I like Hades a lot. And I'm kind of like, well, maybe if I liked that, circling, I would want to do it again. And so I thought, I really want to try this. And of course it's a space thing and space whoredom, all that stuff. You dive in deep and you quickly learn, you start with just a regular gun. And as you go through and navigate the areas, you find guns and modifications and, health. And those are your ways of kind of progressing, right? So there's certain things that you can get that you'll keep. There's very few of them, though. You don't keep any weapons when you die.
Yeah, that's my burning question here to really determine if we're talking about a roguelike or a roguelite, et cetera, whatever gray areas between those things.
Right.
What do you keep? And are there checkpoints or levels? Meaning, like, if you die in area 3, are you starting back at area 1? Or do you begin? Okay, you like...
It's
fully
brutal.
Again from the beginning. You're always starting over.
Brutal. Fucking Dark Souls has nothing on this. And I've never really played a Dark Souls game because I've shied away from the difficulty. But with this game, I was just too fascinated not to buy it, even though I knew it was probably going to kick my butt.
But Hades is that too. And when I played Hades, I understood that every time I die, I'm spending currency to get a little bit stronger. So I'm improving my character, and so I can do better and better and better. And I really hit that first boss, Meg, and found her to be extraordinarily difficult very early in the game and took me many, many tries to beat her. Then I beat her. I was like, yes, finally, I can be on the next phase and then start from World 2 or whatever. Now we're cooking. Died in World 2, started from the beginning. I was like, fuck this shit.
Right. And like that's the thing. A lot of people are going to have the fuck this shit reaction. And, that's totally normal and fine. And then there'll be people who are like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? If that didn't work, this is going to work. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this. And believe it or not, I got to a point where I would blow past Meg in like 60 seconds.
Which I believe I couldn't. The progress was too slow. I could not envision a world where that is even possible. And then I said, no, thank you. But you know what? Every time we talk about Hades, you give me hope that I will one day return to it. But anyway, we're not talking about Hades. We're talking about Returnal. Please continue.
Well, okay. So just to draw a quick comparison, so like you play Hades, you go through a run, you learn some things, you meet some gods, you whatever. And like when you go back, you're like, oh, okay, like I learned these things and I also collected, I forget what the currency was, but like it was the currency you would take to the mirror in your room.
Yeah, it was like darkness, and like level stuff or something.
Up. Yeah,
I forget what it is. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah. So like, that's kind of your forward momentum, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least it was for me. And in Returnal, I thought, okay, they've still got little things you collect that give you forward momentum. Like I think there's a currency called Ether that you can collect. And like there is stuff, but like pretty quickly I was like, okay, so far my longest run has been, I think maybe like 40 minutes. But then I got curious and I was like, man, I wasn't frustrated yet. I was enjoying the groove of, okay, I died, but I learned this, but I learned this. But like when enemies are coming at you in Returnal, they are frantic, and so are you. And you have to dodge quickly, and you really, it's a very unforgiving game, and that's going to appeal to some and not to others. But out of curiosity, I was like, well, like when you get to the next section, like you have a save, right? So there's kind of something. So, and I saw Patrick get to it once. It's like a structure. I think it's as you go, you're like discovering this like alien world and this structure, and like it looks like stone, and it's kind of got a cutout that's shaped like your body. So my understanding is that if you get to one of those, which I have yet to see one in my 40 minutes of playtime at one level. If you get to one, you can go in and make like an imprint of yourself or something, but it costs money, and you do not have like endless money by like any stretch of the imagination.
But it is a checkpoint. It is a decision making point where you can spend resources to say, I need to save here and come back somehow or be revived, I guess, right? I mean, that's cool.
Well, that's what I'm assuming. But I mean, once again, not having experienced it myself, I just saw it. Like I briefly saw him say, oh yeah, hey, like this is kind of one thing you can do. One thing they definitely do give you is a system that like you can use your surroundings and your fighting to get really powerful really fast. So they have a thing called adrenaline, I think it's called. And like as you successfully get through fights without being hit, your adrenaline builds up and makes you really like significantly more powerful. But if you take one hit, it's gone.
Okay.
So it really, the more I talk about it, the more I feel like the brutality level of the game kind of reminds me of a lot of stuff I played in my NES days, actually. It's completely unforgiving in those ways, but it's drop dead beautiful immersive game instead of being a, side scroller built out of 8 pixels.
Sure. But also you're making it sound like there are many strategic choices to be made at all times. There's a difference between like dum at one hit kill, I didn't see that, I'm dead, that's so brutal, versus like I need to be cautious, I need to keep moving, I need to have an opportunity to spend here or ramp up that adrenaline to get super powerful, but what's the trade-off of that? Like, not saying like every getting killed is always your fault, quote unquote, but it sounds like there are strategic choices always to be made where you, like you said, like there's learning to be done, because that always feels, if you do a run for 40 minutes, like you said, and you're like, oh, I learned this enemy, how this enemy moves. Now I know what to look out for. That can be as satisfying as leveling up.
Right. And for me, that's what Hades was.
Yeah.
But so far, and I've played it, tonight was my second night playing it, I feel like I have not mastered like too much of that. And it's so early on, maybe I later will. But one really interesting thing about this game is that it has fairly good reviews. But then if you go and read like a Reddit thread about it, people complain about the length of a run. And I'm like, what do they mean? And one guy was like, I played for 2 hours in one run, died, and went back to the fucking ship.
Right.
And for him, that was his like, fuck it, throw the, rage, throw the controller and quit. And I was like, okay, so, in Hades, I'm at most, if I made it all the way to the final boss and died, I probably would have spent 20, 30 minutes getting there.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's important. That's a huge important part.
Yeah, so I think that like the skill level at which like what Returnal is demanding sounds like it's really, really, really high. I think this game is also famous for having a really tiny percentage of people actually finish it. A coworker was telling me that, and I was like, oh, really? But yeah, so I'm assuming that this this company wanted to make a game that would be like an insane level of challenge for people. And yeah, like I find this really interesting. I actually just looked it up. 21.3% of players have defeated the game's final boss so far. That was written in July, so I'm sure it's gone up by now. But
and what is expected? What is expected of this achievement? Like, start from zero, nothing, and go all the way through 2 to 3 hours or more to the end boss, and that is the successful completion of the run. Like, what are you did mention, oh, you keep some things, you take some, you don't keep weapons, but you are taking something back. What is that something, and does it allow you to grow in power or something? Like, what's going on?
Right. Yeah, that I think is, I have to find that out because I'm not far enough in yet to see like, okay, like I haven't reached these points. Like I did see the thing that you can put your body in, but it's not really a save. It's my understanding of it is it's kind of like the early typewriter system in Resident Evil, but like you have to have enough money for it, and like money is not the easiest thing to come by. Like enemies drop it, but it's not like a lot. So
do you save the money between runs or no?
I don't think so. I should know the answer to that, but I actually don't.
So theoretically, like this run has to be going. Yeah. This run has to be going really, really well. I have to be accumulating enough money or resources to then spend them on perhaps what sounds like a checkpoint. But
right. Well, and I just looked this up. It says the shortcuts and weapon traits you unlock are saved. Okay. So that's what you get. There is no save function. No. So I think that fans were really calling out for that around the time the game originally came out. And I know that the developer tweeted about it and said, like, we hear you, nothing to announce right now, but, keep enjoying. But they really haven't said anything else. So I have a feeling that they don't really want to change it. Maybe they want to be known as like the designers that made this like brutally difficult game, because I mean it worked for Demon Souls, it worked for Dark Souls, but
there is something there's an interesting difference between these two genres where it's like a Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and these are not games for me either. I think I dabbled in Dark Souls once or twice. It's the world is the same every time, and beating that game or even the boss you are up against is like you're doing the same thing over and over again to master the movement, the combat, everything about that encounter to eventually overcome with pure skill. But with a rogue light or like, and it sounds like Returnal is like this, like you could have a great run where things are going great, or you could have a run that goes to hell, and then you play for 2 hours and back to the beginning. There's nothing there might be situations there where no amount of skill, like skill seems to be important in Returnal, but it is not. It is skill plus the randomly generated situation that you find yourself in, and then hopefully a good run plus lots of skill built up is the path to. I loved your phrase, forward momentum.
Yeah.
That is an awesome phrase.
I really want to watch a speedrunner or someone just like complete it and just see how they play. Because, well, first of all, I really want to, the story is extremely fascinating to me, and I want to understand how the whole story goes. And I don't think I will probably be able to finish this game myself. I'll try, but I mean, at some point I'm going to want to watch someone run and successfully, because like as you get further in your runs, and when I say further, I obviously don't mean that far, in my personal experience, but as I've gotten further, what I've experienced is that the density of bullets shot at you, or whatever you want to call it, attacks from the creatures, the aliens that you encounter, get denser and more bullet hell like. So I was like, oh, okay. You have a dodge and a jump, which really the dodge is what you need, or it's like a quick shoot forward kind of movement. But I don't know if my reflexes are honestly up to like that level. And then when I pulled up to see the exact amount, the percentage of how many people had finished it, the same article said only 21.3 total players have won the trophy, which is obtained by defeating the final boss. But to completely finish the game, there's more, just like every, most roguelites. And to discover the true end of the story, you have to finish Act 3, which, according to the achievements on Returnal, 8.9% of players have finished it in that way. I'm like, that's freaking low.
I gotta also wonder about, like, as the game is on the market longer, gets more popular, more people play it, does that number go up or down? Meaning, like, if lots of people buy the game but don't finish it, then that number goes down. You could theorize that, like, the earliest adopters, or, day one release hype folks are the ones who are most invested, and they're going to be like, yeah, I love this game, I got to finish it, or I hate this game, but I bought it and it's here and I got to do it.
Right.
Whereas the more casual players, maybe they get it on sale in 6 months, I don't know, maybe they're less inclined to finish it, which makes that number go down. Statistically, that will be interesting to see.
Yeah. It definitely is. I mean, it's it's one of those games, I think, that oh man, I don't know. It's not like Alien per se, but it's
like Alien, the film,
the movie,
like the aesthetic.
Yeah, it's not like it in any specific way other than you're in space and dealing with aliens, I guess. But there is something about like the strangeness of the world and like the atmosphere and the way that like the biomes kind of breathe and move and how they're populated. Like, I don't know. It's like popcorn to me. Like, I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
Like,
well, my other question, you mentioned story. Interesting. What I really appreciated in Hades was that you can die, you can suck at the game, but the story actually progresses even when you suck and lose. But in other games like this, I imagine the traditional format is like, when you reach World 3, Section Area 3 or whatever, that's when the next story beat unlocks. And that, kudos to Hades for putting putting narrative momentum into a fail state, basically, because that is not a logical choice. It's quite brilliant, as a matter of fact. So does Returnal tell you, if you hit a wall in Returnal, are you still getting story, or are you just at a wall?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So I have noticed that every time you die, that you see a brief scene of Celine going down in the ship again. And sometimes, and what you see is never the exact same going down. There's always little changes in it. And sometimes you'll see like flashes that are like of different images. And then she also has a bed, and like I found the bed in the ship and I went to go lay in it, and I didn't recover any health, which I thought was really interesting and also kind of mean of Housemarque. Like, really, I was like, can I at least go back to the fucking ship? but you do have dreams. And that's cool too. So like those are the things that really piqued my interest about the game. I mean, you know, like I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't played, but like the very first thing you find on that planet is something that makes you go, whoa, fuck.
Okay, great.
So yeah, it's great. I mean, you know, it's horror, really. I mean, it's, you know, it's action horror, it's space horror, but like you're definitely not in a good situation. I never played. The planet is called Atropos, but yeah, it's something.
I never played Dead Space, but I always read and hear about it as this very it is a very lauded and respected franchise, because it was that series or that game that was like, this is space horror, like this is the game,
right? Like
if Alien was a game, this would be the game. And Alien games have been made since then, you know, the Alien franchise, but so I don't know if there's any Dead Space DNA in Returnal going on, or if you have a reference point for that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, yes, like I had to kind of revisit Dead Space in my mind because it's been so many years. But I mean, yes, definitely. But you know, what's interesting to me is that for me, Dead Space, like when I was playing Dead Space, it was almost too effective in that like it gave me like a deep feeling of dread, and I remember actually putting it down because I wasn't enjoying myself because it was too good,
even as a horror fan.
Yes, which is interesting because, you know, I don't usually get to, unless it's VR, I'm usually okay. But yeah, I haven't had that experience with Returnal at all. Like, it's scary, but it's more dark than scary for me. That's been my experience with it.
Tense because of the skill. Like, you got to constantly be. You really can't just stand on your still toes. Ever. You can't stand still. Yeah,
when you walk into a new area, like you really can't stand still ever. Like you have to constantly be moving, and that to me is really, really interesting. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So anyway, this might sound like a lot of kind of mixed impressions, but on the whole, I'm pretty impressed. I'm still having a really good time with it. And I was playing it before this podcast, and I will be playing it after.
I like the mentality of like, you're enjoying, you will continue. And then when you really, if and when you really hit that wall, you'll be like, all right, like I've gotten what I want, and I'm going to make sure I get the rest of the story on YouTube, and then perhaps move on. I mean, I think that's a good. Sounds like a healthy way to approach a game like this.
Yeah, like I'm so like tempted to just go read the story, like the whole story, and then I'm like, don't ruin it. Like, you know, let yourself try a little more. You never know. I mean, you know, I did finish Hades to an insane level of completion. I think this is much harder, but you know, why not? Like, I'm enjoying a game that I normally would not have thought I would enjoy a super hard game, you know? So
how is the controller feedback, the doodads and whatnots on the new PS5? Because
words are crap. Like, they will not express what it feels like. Like, you're running through rain in one of the biomes, and you're holding those two long pieces of the controller and you can feel in your hands raindrops hitting.
It's just amazing.
It's
I'm
freaking
really
amazing.
jealous.
And no matter how many times people said, wow, the haptics are really something, I couldn't really understand it until I played it.
Hey, that's like VR. We
Right.
always say like, I just can't describe this to you right now. You have to one day do it.
You just have to. Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. And I was like, wow, everyone said that this really was like one of the best uses of it so far that they had seen. But I tell you what, it makes me excited because knowing that that is a possibility, like I just imagine all the things that you could possibly do with that.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is, as I understand it, it's a combination of really refined haptics, but also there's a speaker on the controller. So I think maybe there are very subtle raindrop or watery sounds that are maybe almost inaudible, but you can sort of sense them or feel them. I don't want to make shit up, but like, is that going on here too? Like people talk about walking on metal surfaces and you can kind of hear that they're very close to you. And but I don't know.
What I have felt so far has been like the reverberation and movement of the gun, like the feedback of the gun, and the raindrops. And sometimes if a larger enemy lands near you, you feel the ground.
That's cool.
Yeah, you feel that in the controller too. It's so hard to put into words. Like, I'm doing my best, but I feel like it's still not really getting across how freaking amazing it is.
I mean, we all know what traditional haptics are, what they feel like, but it sounds like this is very
different. It's just not. Like, no. It's really
a little
not.
Vibration and a large vibration, but then you're talking about the difference between raindrops and stone or something, two textures, textural feelings. It's remarkable.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's something. So I will say that when, really getting the PS5 for me was mostly like, I just wanted, I wanted to have it to upgrade because our PS4 literally sounded like an airplane trying to take off every time we turned it on. And I was like, oh God. And also, I think I've said on this on the podcast before, but we have the PT demo on it, and we never ever want to lose that.
Yeah.
So we were like, God, we really can't turn it on and like risk like frying it, and then that demo is gone.
Is there no way with modern emulation and archival stuff that internet people have figured out a way to preserve and transmit that thing?
That's a terrific question. I would assume that at this moment, no, because people are well, no, hold on. Checking the internet.
Check.
There is a Reddit thread where someone is saying, yeah, there's a Reddit thread. I don't know.
I mean, look,
I don't know if I went and tried to use this Reddit thread, would it be something that
I'll answer my own question. Yes, the internet has definitely already figured this out. Is it super janky and complicated and illegal and questionable? Like, sure. And so what is your time worth and which is the best way to experience it? And, all this interesting stuff with it, which is, a really good conversation, perhaps for another time. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to save this because now I'm curious to investigate it. It looks like a 17-year-old actually chose to do a full remake of it for Windows PC by themselves.
Well, but which is admirable and impressive, but like a remake is not, like, the question is, can we run the exact files and codes and textures?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
On drop it into a fresh PS4 or run it on a Windows machine. That's somewhere someone has done that, but we'll see.
Yeah,
we should find a game preservationist or someone of that nature to bring on the show to discuss like interesting case studies of like, because PT is the poster child for this, right? Mm-hmm. It was a demo of a game that was going to come out, then it got canceled, and then it got wiped off the store. But then, so if you still had it installed, you're one of the lucky few, and that's exactly really interesting.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's something that's a great idea too. I wonder if that's something that I could dig around on and try to find, because those are questions that I'll always have and I'll always want to know the answers to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, I think I'm done talking about Returnal now, so we should talk about your game.
Well, I have asked you and other folks in the Discord here and there, and I said, if I don't really care much about Tetris, I'm not good at it. I'm not super like excited by Tetris. I respect the hell out of Tetris. I think it's an extraordinary game. But if I'm going to like sit down for 2 hours, if I'm going to play a game for 50 hours or invest my time, Tetris just is not up there. So I said to you and to others, I'm like, is Tetris Effect like, come on, is it just like fucking pretty Tetris? Like what? Come on. Well, give it to me straight. And you're like, no, it is a spiritual journey.
And you were like, what the fuck does that mean? Oh, I love that.
And I trust you. And I know that when you say something like that, I would never dismiss it. But still, I'm like, come on. But others have said similar things of like, it is just exactly what we were talking about, haptics and VR. It's like, there's something about this thing that is, you really can't describe it. You can't describe why it is wonderful. So it's been on my wish list. I'm really a holdout on the whole Epic Store thing because I really just like the way that Steam handles streaming. Mm-hmm. Although now that I'm using Moonlight and NVIDIA, and I figured out actually a great way to like sort of, you're not bypassing Steam, of course, it's running in the background, but I don't need to launch Steam to stream these games now directly. So perhaps if Epic, do you have any drama with the Epic Store? Like, I feel like I put it on my old machine and then it just I
haven't yet, but I mean, like, I'll be honest, I don't use it a ton. I used it to play the Ascent when I was playing that, and that really has been the only major thing I've used it for. Or wait, no, I think actually I take it back. I think the Ascent I think I got that from the Xbox Games Pass. So no, I don't think I've really done. I mean, it's on my computer, but I don't think I've used it a lot.
Yeah. So I'll keep thinking about that because free games. Yeah, I don't mind paying some money for games because my time is when I'm going to invest in a game, as we've discussed. Like, I'm gonna invest the time. I don't mind spending $30 if it's gonna bring me 60 hours of enjoyment. But the free games on Epic are great games. They're not, back catalog bullshit. So, yeah, I'll keep thinking on that. But I just have been waiting for Tetris Effect to come to Steam. And it came last week, I think. And and at that juncture, I was like, but am I gonna make time for this, whatever? And of course, it launched on Steam on sale. It was a pretty good price. And I was like, all right, well, multiple people are saying like, you need to experience this thing. And it's probably never going to be cheaper than this. It's finally on the platform I want to play it on. What the hell? Let's grab Tetris Effect Connected. And I'm glad. And then it's also coming to Switch, but in October. So I was like,
oh, I didn't know that.
Which I'll get there because having it on like the family console that everyone can just hop in and join up and they don't have to worry. Streaming from the PC is kind of like that's my thing. That's not a thing that everyone's going to be involved in. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that. But I'm really happy I got it on PC because I made a point for my first experience with this game to be a VR experience. And I'm happy to report that you are correct. This is an extraordinary thing that I didn't really understand. And I'm about to say many wonderful gushing things about how special this is, and also simultaneously say, like, I just don't care about Tetris that much. So I don't know if I'm going to be putting 300 hours into this thing.
Sure.
And I'm actually a little conflicted about that. 300 hours is stupid. I'm conflicted about, I'm interestingly conflicted about how much I love this beautiful, majestic piece of art, and how little how little interested I am in continuing to play it. And
but
it's
that's
really
okay
weird
to me, honestly. Like if you got to kind of experience it and be like, wow, neat, and like get those same feelings of like, wow, they really did something so deeply different with this. I feel like that, like, you don't necessarily have to play a game 300 hours for it to have had like an interesting impact on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's making me think, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of Journey, of like, you are a strange person who has played Journey 400 times or whatever it's been.
Probably about like, 4 from beginning to end, but yes.
But I played Journey once with the kids, and it was a spectacular experience and provided, 2 hours, 3 hours of entertainment. And right. I don't know that I will go back to it. And that's great. That's fine. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But I totally want to... this thing... Here's the other dimension of like, will I, won't I play it? I think I could benefit from doing nothing but Tetris for a little while.
Why is that? What I mean? That's a really interesting statement.
From a focus... I hesitate to say mental health. You know what I mean? It's like, when you are really focused on something and you're not doing anything else, you're not listening to a podcast, you're not worrying about like, hey, am I going to level up, or am I getting this, weapon upgrade or whatever? Like, those are the games that, we all love and like to sink a lot of time in. And Tetris is literally just like, does this T fit here? No? Yep. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, then the next thing.
I think you're talking about mindfulness.
It is. This is a mindfulness game that I don't want to play it as a prescription of like, man, of course, life's crazy, I got to take my mindfulness medicine now. I don't want it to be that, but it has the potential to really be a wonderful, peaceful, relaxing thing. And maybe if I give myself a chance to fall in love with Tetris, maybe I could like Tetris. I don't think I'll ever be good at Tetris. I find myself, why I realize I suck at Tetris is because I tried the connected mode, which is extraordinary, which is, and some of it is competitive, but some of it is cooperative.
Right.
And the boards connect, and then you're playing on the same field as 2 other players, and you're taking turns dropping your pieces in. And I'm the idiot being like, wait, is it here? No, rotate. Wait, no, rotate back. And I'm like fucking holding up the whole team.
Well, I apparently am also idiot. That person, so we should play together. Because I feel the exact same way when I'm playing. I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't keep up. But I mean, I know for a fact that I'm not a good Tetris player. I just like playing Tetris.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, whatever,
So I'm going to tell you a lot of things you already know, and perhaps listeners already know, but like, I love, as someone who produces audio and cares very deeply about the sonic texture of music and production and stuff. It is one thing to create an amazing song or a track of audio. Like, we all admire a great songwriter or producer. Like, that's cool. And then to be able to chop it up and segment it in a way so that a player playing Tetris is like playing a musical instrument.
Right.
As you move pieces, you're triggering notes and beats to happen. And as you clear lines, the music gets more or less intense, or it builds. And again, I don't have to tell you that the music in this game is extraordinary. but the way it interacts
not
with
being
gameplay.
a musician myself, like that was that particular aspect that you're describing was very hard for me to put into words. Probably because I was kind of overwhelmed in a good way by the entire experience. But now I'm hearing you say it and going, yes, that's perfect. Exactly what it is that the music is reactive to the experience of your play.
Reactive.
But instead I was just like, it's a spiritual experience.
But that is, when art is done well, you really shouldn't be paying attention to it or analyzing or dissecting it. You should just be enjoying it or not seeing the seams, whatever. But the thing that I also found really compelling was like, moving a piece from left to right triggers the notes, but you can, you're playing Tetris, so you can move them as quickly, as fast or as slow as you want. Mm-hmm. The audio response is actually timed to the beat of the music. So it in actual music production, it's called quantization, which is like, is used a lot in like drum sequencing of like, if you're playing an electronic drum, with a keyboard or with drumstick, you can be like, and you could suck, and then the computer quantizes it so that every beat is either a 16th note or an 8th note or a whole note or whatever, so that people who suck at drums, myself included, can record a drum track or a synthetic drum track or whatever. And so what the game is doing is, no matter how you are playing, it is syncing the musical response to the beat of the song. And so the result of that is like, you move a Tetris piece to the right, and it's like move, woo, and the note triggers. It's slightly after, or it's slightly before, whatever. But if you really want to get into the sort of I don't know, a Guitar Hero mode of this game, there isn't really one, but like, you can kind of play to the beat. You can move and rotate pieces on the beat, and then it feels like you're playing a musical instrument in that way. And then again, I'm preaching to the choir, but like, every stage is different thematically and texturally. So sometimes your pieces are made of water droplets, and sometimes your pieces are made of sand, and sometimes they're made of metal or whatever. And when the pieces touch each other, and when you clear a line, and when you hit the wall, it's like sonically and texturally, you're playing the same game. It's just Tetris, but level 2 feels completely different from level 3. It's like you're in another universe playing the same game. And I was like, this is extraordinary. And it makes me want to, I don't feel compelled to play more Tetris, but I really feel compelled to unlock. There's like a journey mode, and I want to see what level 16 is all about. What's level 17? What kind of creatures or psychedelics or music is going to happen there? Because as I understand it currently, you have to unlock all the levels in journey mode to then access them in the other modes. I could be wrong about that. Is that correct?
No, you're correct. And the
Which
last,
is good. I like that.
The last level waiting for you is hard as fuck. Like, I've never passed it. Patrick's passed it, I believe. But
really?
But it's really, and it really, I feel like the entire game, clearly it feels like a journey, even if you're only playing the first level. But like, as you watch all that unfold, it really, it's more impressive, or was more impressive to me the further that I kind of went along the journey. So I really absolutely enjoyed it so much, and I feel like VR is the ultimate way to experience it. But
I'm not conflicted is a strong word, but VR was a wonderful experience, but it's Tetris, so you're just looking at a 2D board and playing Tetris with a big helmet on, and that.
But it's not the Tetris, I don't think. It's all the things happening around that and with it. Like the music. The music makes it a completely different sensory experience, and the atmosphere and the sound. Yeah, so like for me that was. But I will say this: I have not played it just on my PC screen yet.
So you've only done VR?
Yes. And
wow.
A friend who actually is a part of our Discord was kind enough to gift it to me just like a couple of days ago. So I was like, ooh, okay, I've got to do this. So it's on my to-do list this weekend to sit down and like spend some time with it in that way. And I'll definitely play with headphones, but
you had played, where were you playing it before? If not
I played
on PC?
it on the PlayStation VR when it originally came
out.
Okay. And then I repurchased it for the Oculus Quest 2. Because at that point, the PSVR had, aged way out in comparison to quality.
When you bought it for Oculus, did you buy it on Epic and then run it on the PC, or is this pure Oculus?
No, it was purely Oculus. So I have not played it running it on PC in
How
VR
was it in
yet.
Oculus? How was
it
the
looks
Oculus
terrific
experience?
And sounds really, really good. But I mean, I can tell you undoubtedly that there's no game in VR that doesn't look better when I've plugged my visor into PC.
I guess, but I don't know. I 100%, but I'm curious about a diminishing returns curve here, because I guess what I'm saying, and I'm really eager to get your thoughts, because you've experienced it in multiple platforms, and then also you've only did VR. My first experience in it was VR, and I was like, this is rad. And then I just put it on the TV, and I'm like, this is 95% just as rad.
Really?
Crank up the speaker, kick back, and have a spiritual Tetris experience. And I didn't really mind that I didn't have, like, looking over to my right to see a dolphin didn't matter, because it was beautiful dolphins jumping and splashing in sync to this amazing music on my big living room TV. And that also was just as good as the VR experience.
See, that really makes me want to try it, because I've not experienced it that way. And I mean, I also have a fresh, brand new copy of it that's unopened. So it makes me think that is something that I should prioritize to a higher degree, because I'm curious. It's a game I really, really love. And I've considered myself an average Tetris fan, and that I like Tetris. I played it on the NES first, I think.
Yeah, same.
I enjoyed it. And over the years, I have played it. But if a new Tetris game came out, I wasn't like, oh my God, gimme.
Tetris
never.
99. Tetris 99 was very interesting, and we enjoyed it a little bit. And then it just was a little too...
it's too much
too
for
frantic,
me.
too much.
It's way too much for me. Like, I can handle the frantic level of Returnal, maybe because, but I don't want to see like 80 other players playing at the same time as me. I don't know. Like, it just makes me kind of hate everything. So I'm like, yeah, okay, bye.
If I have almost zero criticism of Tetris Effect Connected, but my one surprise that kind of put me off was, like, in journey mode, I mean, I was at level 4 or 5, and I was still just taking it in. I was like, what's this? What's this level going to look like? Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so peaceful. It's chill. It's meditative. And then I cleared line 12, and it's like, speed 9. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? This is what? How? What? You're dead. Goodbye. And I was like, what? No, I was so peaceful. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And it took me multiple tries to be like, why is it going from speed 3 to speed 9? Like, suddenly and brutally. And then if you manage to survive that, it goes back to 3 or it goes back to 5. And I'm like, I'm on level 4. Like, save. If this was level 26, great. Bring it on. But, like, I'm chilling out over here. What are you doing? It was just this weird, unexpected difficulty spike that I was like, oh no, this is why I hate Tetris. I don't like this anymore.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I feel like that's kind of a hallmark in every Tetris, that at some point you'll be playing and you'll suddenly be challenged to be like, oh, Jesus.
But it's a slope. I mean, maybe I haven't played modern Tetris in a while, but my memory of NES and Game Boy Tetris was like, you get to level 3, it gets a little bit faster. Level 4, a little bit faster. And you are up this growing curve. It literally went from 3, which is very chill, to 9, which I guess is
not
the
chill at all.
fastest or second fastest. Impossible. Almost impossible for me.
Right.
An elderly geriatric person. I couldn't handle that.
Oh man, I had to lean away from the mic for that laugh. It's like, oh, don't cackle into the mic. It's not ladylike.
So that's my gripe. If you're listening, Tetris company,
that's
slow
a fair
it down.
gripe. That's a fair gripe. But that said, I'm really glad that you decided to try it, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and you got to enjoy all the beautiful aspects of it, even though you've never really been a Tetris fan. I think that's really cool that you decided to take the chance on it.
Well, and thanks to you for really, not that you pushed it, but like I asked the questions, and your answers were like, no, you got it. You need to know about this.
There's not that many games I feel like that I could universally be like, this is a game you really must experience. It's really quite unlike anything else I've ever played. Like, I don't have a lot of those in my pocket, and this is definitely one of them.
And because Tetris is, just walk down any street and be like, have you heard of Returnal? Have you heard of Dark Souls? Have you heard of Spelunky? People are like, what the fuck are you? Have you heard of Tetris?
Heard of Tetris?
Oh, of course I've heard of Tetris. Have you played Tetris? Yeah. Of course I played Tetris. I love Tetris.
Right.
So like
Everyone's
this
played
universal, a universal cultural touchstone brought into, like you said, a spiritual experience. It's actually extraordinary that this has not existed 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
I got really
or something
interested
like it.
with the music and like who made the music and just like how they came up with like this kind of concept, because it's like, how in the hell did you come up with this? Like, how did you start with Tetris and come up with this? Like I think that that definitely was like, what?
Do you know, and this is perhaps this is some research to do, or perhaps we could investigate, a guest or something, but like, was it Tetris being like, what if we made a Beat Saber version of Tetris? Or was it a musical person or a producer or an artist being like, hey, I'm playing Tetris and Tetris is very rhythmic, and what if we put music to it? And then who approached whom, I guess, is what I'm asking. And
that's a really, really good question. All I know is all I know about is the soundtrack. I do not know about I know that 2 different Japanese studios worked on the game, separate studios. Monstars and Resonare were these 2 studios. I know they were a part of it. And then I know that the entire in-game soundtrack was composed by a band called Hydaelek that sequenced and composed the tracks completely separately from the game. Okay. And I don't understand anything about how that composing worked, but I tell you what,
meaning, was this music created for its own sake and then brought into the game later, or did they know that they were making Tetris music? They just didn't connect, they didn't like plug it into the game. Like the developers took the musical stuff and then put it in the game. We don't, and I'm not, maybe you don't know the answer.
I do not know for sure. I do really, that's really all. The only thing I knew about Hydaelek when I found out about them, I was like, who are these people? And the first thing I found out was that and this makes so much sense, their debut work was for Res Infinite. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, gotcha. That makes all the sense in the world. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know a lot. But I tell you what, if there was to be like a making of documentary about this, like I honestly would like watch it in a heartbeat, because I just find it to be it just feels so different to me than just like, hey, let's do something different with Tetris. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, it appeals to me. It appeals to my sensibilities, but I just think it's really very magical, and I would really recommend it to just about anybody.
Someone could say, let's make a musical Tetris, or let's put cool music beats into a Tetris game. But there is someone or a group of people who shepherded this. That the directors, the producers, all must have been like, yeah, it's that, but also like there's an intangible, spiritual, magical thing that we need to achieve here. And that's, I guess it's just like direction, like, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, that movie was a story that started at point A and ended at point C. Mm-hmm. But the way that movie is made, there is an intangible cinematographic something, and that is the hand of a director and likely many other people involved. And that's, I don't know, it's extraordinary how that will make or break something as simple as Tetris, because it's just Tetris. It's just Tetris.
Still just Tetris.
It's
but,
still just Tetris.
I mean, they say, you can't reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
So,
this is, I would like to, our homework is to read up a bit more about Hydelic and such. And it's also making me it's reminding me of my interest in like procedurally generated music. And there are a couple games that do this. No Man's Sky does it because the whole game is procedurally generated, but there is a band called 65 Days of Static that recorded the soundtrack for it. And I love it. I love the soundtrack to No Man's Sky because I love that game. But I believe they recorded an album. Like, you can listen to the album, but if you experience the music in the game, there are layers to it. So if you are out in space, you're hearing one version of the track, but then if you encounter an enemy, then the track, it's the same song, but a more intense layer is added on top of it, and then you move down to the planet and it evolves into the next track. Or so, I'm probably misrepresenting it here, but like, the music responds to the situation dynamically. And how do you do that with music? It's that's like it's the leap from making a 2-dimensional movie to making a 3-dimensional video game. Like, wow, how can you possibly tell a story in all these dimensions with player agency? Well, try recording a musical album with player agency. Like, that's wild, but that's happening. These extraordinary games are doing that, and also that's likely the future of musical scoring. Maybe AI is going to be writing or arranging music. You feed in some feelings into a computer, and then the computer's like, when the player goes here, we're going to do this. When the player goes here, we're going to do this crazy thing. Like, I don't know. I would like to learn more about this stuff from someone smarter than me. That's for sure.
I also do. We should find that person.
All right. Homework
and
is upon us.
Onto this podcast.
Stay tuned. Anything else? Anything else you're dabbling in or looking forward to?
No, yes, actually, I'm looking forward to getting my butt kicked by Returnal in probably the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Go and do it. Yeah, I was reminded, we are recording this on Thursday, so the day before it hits your feeds. Spelunky 1 and 2 is out on Switch today. And I have been intrigued by these games for a long time. Again, they just were not on Steam, so I think this is finally their escape from the Epic Store or other places, maybe or a console debut or something. So I was waiting, and this is a game that, like, I'm either going to really think this is rad or I'm going to hate this game. And I can't, I don't know, because it is a punishing, brutal roguelike, like, I think it's like Returnal, where you go as far as you can go and then you die and then you start over and you keep nothing. there's no progress. You just learn about how systems work and enemies move and things like that. And so people rave about it, and I don't know if I should get it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I have to admit that I personally don't like. I get why people are into it, but it's just not really like my thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like for me, when I'm like, I don't know if I should get into it, the answer to that to me is put it on my wish list and wait for it to go on sale.
Yeah, sure. Yep. That is a correct response to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just not sure. I mean, we talked about this, right? It's like there's so many games to play, and
I know.
You know, how long how long can it be that we could spend on each of these things? You know, if you're passionate
Well,
about a title, yeah, go for it. But if you're like, maybe, I don't know, it might be good, it's like, I feel like that's your answer. Or let me put it this way, that's my answer.
Yes. No, I think that's right. But how do you feel about this notion that you touched on a little bit with Tetris of like, there are they're like literature. It's like, am I really going to read The Grapes of Wrath? I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to enjoy reading that book. But like,
right.
I should know about it. I should read the synopsis. I should maybe at least give the first chapter a try, just to make sure. Like, all right, I'm just going to read the Wikipedia. You know, I'm not going to read this whole thing through, but I should at least. So like, there's something about Spelunky and the way it is revered that I'm like, I think it's one of those that I should probably just experience and try.
Yeah.
And be okay if it's like, oof, it's just too punishing. But at least I know what all the hubbub is about.
Totally. Recently, another streamer that I'm friends with does like a community night every week, which is real fun. And he was like, let's play Worms. And I was like, okay. And so we got Worms, and Patrick was fan of Worms. And he was like, yeah, Worms, try Worms. And I tried it, and I was like, don't care. Don't think it's bad. Just don't care. And I was like, okay, you know, a lot of people love Worms. And I'm like, now I know that I don't think it sucks, but I'm just like, you know, it's there.
But do you feel somehow like better or more informed? Do you feel like you can truly say, respect Worms, it's not for me? Whereas before you tried it, you really couldn't say that. Does that matter to you?
Honestly, no. Truthfully, like, I guess it depends on what it is. You know, it depends on like the level of legendary, maybe.
Yes.
But I don't like, you know, I had heard of Worms. I was like, yeah, okay. You know, and then I played it and I was like, okay, you know, like for a long time, I heard about Stardew Valley before I played it. And then I played it and I was like, oh, this is fun. You know, I got into my groove for a while. I did a lot of farming, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go do something else now.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, as we speak, I literally have my Steam library open because I wanted to download Tetris Effect Connected, because I had it in the library, but it wasn't downloaded. And as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at least 20 games that I haven't played yet.
Yep.
And I'm like, ugh.
I know, right? Am I going to replay the game I already know?
Right. And like, I'm also now at a point, and this could fill up a whole episode probably, so I'll just make it a quick note, that I'm at a point where, as much as I think fondly of the idea of replaying certain games, with the exception of my good old pal, The Legend of Zelda on NES, I'm probably not doing it.
Yeah, I would like to devote an episode actually to this, because I feel very conflicted. I feel conflicted. I feel like there are games that really deserve to be revisited, either for nostalgia or for other reasons. And it always feels, that's so shitty. It's such a crappy mentality to be like, I can't waste my time enjoying this great game because I got to play all these other games. Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but I can't shake that feeling. I guess what I'm getting at is like, we're not professional games journalists. We have no obligation to be experts. But for some reason, I feel this compulsion to be like, I will not like Dark Souls, but I need to know about it because I just need to know. I need to know. I need to be able to speak intelligently about this genre. And how can I do that if I've never touched it before? And I don't know where that compulsion comes from. It's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, I personally don't find it to be stupid at all. I just think it's like when something is a great hobby for you and it really matters to you. I think it's just difficult to. I just think it's really, really difficult to not like want to embrace all of it, and I totally get that. But like, I've had to do the same thing with like books and movies. And like, I've had to be like, yeah, no, I'm never going to read fill in the blank book, or I'm never going to get to this. And, that's okay. Like there's really, I mean, I don't think, if there's a God, I don't think I'm going to get to the end of my life and they're going to be like, you did not read The Great Gatsby. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but it's not about that external judgment. It's like, did I, this is pure FOMO. Did I miss it?
Might be,
did I miss something great? The whole world says The Great Gatsby is great, is an important book. So am I missing a piece of human culture by not reading that?
Well, I mean, maybe, but one thing you could do is just watch the movie, which will take 2 hours of your life, and then the whole story, and that's the end of that. Or if you want to save even more time, you can just go to Wikipedia right now and read the entire summary. I mean, it's like the Cliff Notes, but it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, maybe I need a column in my game organizational system where it's just like, no, don't play this. Just watch the playthrough. Just watch a YouTube video. Just watch the highlight reel.
It's kind of cool, right? Because like you can do that now. You can be like, oh, okay, like, that's just, like I was thinking about that with Returnal. I'm like, am I going to finish it? Probably not because of the difficulty level, but like, I'll try. But like, yeah, when I don't get it, I'm probably just going to go watch a stream and enjoy, what it looks like to finish it and finish, and see the whole story. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Like I don't have to glean, my $70 of enjoyment out of the game. You know what I mean? Like games shouldn't be a punishment. At least in my mind.
And there's different reasons. One is like, I'll never have time for this game. Watch the video. I'll never enjoy this game, so don't invest my time and money into it. And maybe third category is like, I love this game. I'm stuck. Can't finish it. Let's move on and just wrap it up with the Wikipedia article.
I think it's fair to say that for people like, in their 30s, 40s, and beyond that have played games their whole lives, that this is simultaneously like all of our childhood dreams, but also a nightmare at the same time, because it's like, oh my God, we have every game in every genre you could possibly want to play, and they're so affordable in so many ways with stuff like Steam. But like we're adults and we literally would have to play. We would have to not have children, not have jobs, and like spend all of our time playing games to even hope to play even half. But here's the thing, and I've thought about this before. Right. Sign me up, fam. I've thought about this before, though. When you go to the bookstore, and I mean, I'm a pretty heavy duty reader. When I go to the bookstore, I don't stand around the bookstore going, oh my God, I'm never going to read all the books I want to read. Because I've accepted that. Yes. I've accepted that. And I've been like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm never. So I'm going to focus on the experiences that I do get to have, the choices I do make. And I'm basically only in the same way, I'm only going to pursue books that I feel really excited to read. And I'm only going to pursue games that I feel really excited to play. So like, yeah, I would probably really enjoy, where there are no other games in the world, sitting down and playing through something like Ghost of Tsushima. But like, am I going to do that? Probably not, because there's like a whole bunch of other stuff that I want to play more. So I hate to say it, but like, I feel like I got to let the river flow and just kind of be like, okay, there it goes. If I ever want to go back and play it, which is highly unlikely, it'll be there.
Yeah. Yes. Two final thoughts, perhaps, because I know I want to let you get back to Returnal there, but One, I love this image of us as kids being like, wouldn't it be great if there was 1,000,000 video games? And then the monkey's paw curls and it's like, oh no, there's too many. No, what did I wish for? No.
Yeah, honestly.
And then something else that I occasionally think about. What if tomorrow all new video games stopped being made and there was never a new, and you could apply this to any media. There was never a new book, movie, or game ever again. You'd still have infinite.
Enough to the end of life.
Enough to the end of life. And so that is simultaneously like, no big deal, and horrifying. Like, imagine if culture stopped. Why is that so? That is very existentially alarming to me. Yeah. Do you feel like that or no?
No, I mean, I totally do feel like that, actually. But yeah, exactly. Like I can't really think of any of the things that would be good about it, because all I can think about is how, like, if I was going to write a horror story, this is like a perfectly like doable premise.
It feels a little Stephen King-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Something supernatural in the time-space continuum has become blocked or stopped, or something is wrong with the human race, and there's no more things to make or do. You just got to do the old stuff. And I don't know, it feels, if that happened today, there's plenty of stuff to still do. But if that happened in like 1920, like, what are you going to do with your life for the rest of your life?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess somehow, some way, we'll continue to deal with this absolutely horrible situation that we're in, where we sit down and we're like, oh man, I have 30 games I haven't played in my library yet, but maybe I'll go look at the Steam store. Which, by the way, was what I was doing while I was waiting for you to get on the podcast. I was like, let me just look at the Steam store real quick. And then I was like, why am I like this?
Because we're broken people. Please, dear listeners, email us. What's in your Steam queue? What? Here's the homework. Okay.
Yeah. If there's a game that you wish you could play, like what Matt's saying, if there's a game that you're like, oh, I should play that, or I wish I had time to play that, but you just don't get around to it, what is it?
Yeah. What is it? Go in, stop what you're doing, pull over, open up your Steam library, and look at that list, and just send us. Have entered the chat at gmail.com. Send us the game or games or series or whatever that you're like, I need to get to that, but I never will. And why? What's going on?
And why?
We want to know.
Yep.
Please do.
We have a Discord to discuss these things as well.
Get in the Discord to discuss, because that's going to be a great conversation topic for the Discord and for future episodes here. The Discord is linked in the show notes as always. And, as always, our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave it a rating or review in your favorite podcast app. We certainly appreciate that. We got to poke in at those reviews. Maybe there's some new ones up on there that we can read. So we'll share those with you next time. And for now, Colette, any final thoughts before we head on out of here and return to Returnal?
It's National Dog Day.
Old Friends Dog Day.
Happy National Dog Day to every old and young friend.
We'll talk at you next week. Bye.
Bye.